Let's bring in former FBI special agent and author of, quote, How to Spot a Terrorist Before It's Too Late, John Iannarelli, and Lerer Hippeau Ventures partner Eric Hippeau, who's just getting his microphone on. That's all right. We can show it. Moses is putting on his microphone at the moment, but I will. There you go. Thank you. Let me just get to you first, John. Sarah Sanders said that the justice system and the way this lottery system is working has got to change. Do you agree? Because it appears that's how this Uzbekistan national came in.
Absolutely. The world's changed. This is the new normal. We can't just let people arbitrarily come into the country or anywhere else for that matter unless we're taking some time to determine who they are. There's a lot of nefarious persons out there. We have to be sure they don't want to do harm here in the United States.
That is the suspect, Sayfullo Saipov. And Eric, you're a tech head extraordinaire. This all comes down at the very same time that leaders of Facebook, Google, which of course owns YouTube, and Facebook, Google, and what's the third one that's been testifying? Twitter. That they are all before the House Intelligence Committee today. They were before a Senate subcommittee yesterday, talking about how they somehow allowed so many Russian and all kinds of things onto their site, including a bunch of ISIS promotions onto their sites. They're in big trouble right now because they're not just attacked by shareholders. They're being attacked by the government for allowing this. What happens next?
Well, they have to be transparent, and they've always talked about being transparent, but I think now what we're seeing is that they're dragging their feet. It's been too long for them to come up with the numbers, the number of accounts that are false and the number of accounts that the Russians have been manipulated, amongst other people. This is not acceptable to society, and they have to take responsibility. And whether they employ technology or a combination of technology plus people, they have to put the resources behind it, and they have to anticipate those problems.
John, we don't know where or how this suspect was, quote, inspired, because obviously there's the ISIS magazine Inspire. But in 2013, I noticed that the Pew Research Organization issued a report. This is way back in 2013, that a third of all Americans got their news from Facebook. Fast forward to just this October, where Sheryl Sandberg, the chief operating officer of Facebook, went onto Capitol Hill and said, we don't employ journalists, we don't do news. She knew that back then a third of the Americans were getting that news. Today, it's half of all Americans. Isn't it a little bit disingenuous for Facebook to say, hands off, we don't employ journalists, we're not a news operation, we're just the pipe through which news flows?
You know, it's a sorry state that most people are getting their news from the internet where there's no fact-checking whatsoever. It is a problem. But Facebook, Twitter, and the others, they're also going to be a key component in resolving the problems we have with terrorism. As your guest said, we need help with technology, and we want to leverage technology to work for us in protecting citizens, not just letting ISIS and other groups use this to spread their propaganda.
It's a big business, Eric. Facebook, Twitter, well, Twitter not so much, but Facebook hitting multiple new highs. A lot of people have made a lot of money on this. Do you see it dinging their stock at some point, where you've got not just European governments that have always been after these guys, but you've got the U.S. government, the House, really wondering what we should do next? Senator Chuck Grassley was on with Stuart Varney yesterday, and I heard him say, I don't think we need to hover over them and regulate, but they have some explaining to do here.
For sure, and to the prior point, these companies have to now face the fact that they are media companies, or at least in good part they're tech-driven media companies. But as media companies, they should be responsible for their content. They should know what content goes on their platform, and more importantly, they need to know their customer. The same regulations that go, I'm not saying they should be regulated, I'm just saying they should assume that. Yeah. Same regulations that we have in the financial services industry, you have to know your customer. And like any good business, you want to know whom you're doing business with. And it can't be false accounts, and it can't be people pretending to be who they not are. It's got to be people that know who they are.
That's an excellent comparison with the financial industry. John, it is not just the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world. This person, this suspect, rented a Home Depot truck to pull this off. Home Depot, we called them. Countdown put in a call, and this is the response that we got. While I can't, well, meaning this was a PR person, while I can't get into specifics of what it is, we do have training in cooperation with law enforcement. It's too early to tell if or how that would change. It's also part of our standard approach for associates to say something if they see something. Then there is Uber, which has stepped up. This guy was an Uber driver, apparently. Now they've stepped up and said, we'll give you what you need, any kind of information. But he had priors. He had a suspended license in the state of New Jersey at one point. Does that mean Uber wasn't doing its due diligence, too? And is this on their shoulders?
There's so many Uber drivers. How do you weed out the ones that have something in their background other than a suspended license? What we want to do is leverage these relationships, whether it's Home Depot, Uber, or anybody else. The FBI, government has tripwires that if you see something unusual, and it's what I write about, that there are telltale signs you can look for. I guarantee you, as they dig into this, they're going to see this person was visiting social media and other people were aware of the things he was espousing. Yeah. It's that kind of information that needs to be brought forward with these tripwires.
Yeah, and I think Eric's point about comparing it to the financial industry, it's very hard to get a bank account if you don't put forth a million pieces of ID. John Iannarelli, and former FBI special agent, and Eric Hippeau, Lerer Hippeau Ventures partners, thank you so much on a very busy news day. We appreciate both of you coming here.